Three, two, one. Ladies and gentlemen, Joanna Weber, how are you?
Hi. Hello. Hi. Yeah, it's wonderful weather here today.
It's so great to have you here and, uh, giving me a chance to talk about a band that I recently discovered, the Cardiacs. And of course, there's so many things to talk about. They're not just about the band, but of course, Tim Smith, right, who recently passed away. And there are so many topics for discussion as well regarding his legacy, his music, how he pulled through so many years after being struck by a stroke and then suffering from this rare disease called dystonia, right? So we're gonna maybe also talk about some of the stuff you have done. I think you are writing a few great reviews and articles for, I think, a music website. And tell us more about what you do as well. Maybe for a start, shall we just dive into this topic? How has this news, about Tim Smith's passing, how has it, this heartbreaking news really affected you?
It's it's been. I think it's been tough for everybody. When I first heard, I mean, it was my very, very first reaction was just the word no. It's like that is not the way that story was supposed to end. And because the narrative is supposed to be that you get sick, you get better, and he had started to make some kind of recovery. And then this devastating news that this was the end of it. But as others have pointed out, actually, it is kind of a happy ending in that we got an epilogue, because he first fell ill in 2008 and we got 12 more years. And so we should be happy and grateful that he was around for this length of time, and that he got to enjoy, and we got to enjoy time with him. So he wasn't a particularly close friend, but one of the things that has been revelatory to me was to realize how many people were in that kind of zone of having experiences of hanging with him, and it's hundreds, maybe thousands of people in this position, because he was just so warm and open. And so all of us can share these moments together, and we're not alone. We're not going through it alone. Everyone's going through it together, and there's no, people here saying there's no hierarchy here. It's like whether you're a fan who discovered them last week, or whether you're really close friend. It's like everybody is feeling this, and all feelings are valid. And so that's been wonderful, seeing that kind of outpouring of love and support that everybody's given to each other.
I think you actually put this, very appropriately in terms of how this piece of news has affected so many people around the world, right? And all the bands that I grew up listening to, Faith No More, Mr. Wow, even Napalm Death, even Blur and Radiohead, right? They have all, owed such a great debt to Tim Smith and to the Cardiacs. So I think there are so many tributes being paid as well to the Cardiacs frontman, right? And what are some of the more, touching tributes that you have seen or heard or read so far? And what has been the thing that struck you the most, with the outpouring of, tributes and also messages online about, this news of Tim Smith's passing?
I think the most eloquent thing that I've seen was somebody just said he liked people and he took delight in things. And I think if you could distill Tim Smith down into two sentences, that's it. He liked people. He always made room for people. He made people feel important, not in a kind of fawning way, but you never felt like you weren't welcome or that he was putting himself out for you. He would just move up and create space around him for everyone and anyone. The phrase that people keep saying about him is he kept an open house. And the thing I remember about him is he kept an open table. You would go up and there would be a table, and there would always be a space at that table where you could sit down and talk. And that was Tim. But that thing about he liked people, and that was his motivation. And he took delight in things, so that extraordinary passion for life and just the enjoyment of everything that life had to offer, of music, obviously, but of food and sunsets and just the simple joy of the summer heat on your skin. He just enjoys life.
So I think you touched on as well about how everyone has been devastated and heartbroken. That Tim Smith has passed. You obviously also has been cheered, right, by all the memories from the people who posted their personal stories as well online of how the Cardiacs have meant so much to them. So personally to you, right? Maybe can you walk us through like how did you discover the Cardiacs? What was the first song that you ever heard, and why the Cardiacs mean so much to you as well?
It was 1993, and I was a huge fan of the band Levitation. And I knew that Levitation's guitarist, Vic Hayes, had been in Cardiacs beforehand. So I was aware of the band. I just hadn't heard anything by them. And there was a magazine called Lime Lizard, and it had a cover mount cassette with the song Day Is Gone on it. And I really liked that song. And then I met Arash Tarabi, who's Carvis's cousin, at a gig, and he gave me this mixtape of Cardiacs. And that was it. That went from being this is a band I've heard of to I've heard one track and I like it to this is my new favorite band. And I had this time with Claire, and we both just listened to Cardiacs, and it just became this big thing in our lives of this collection of bands and music and people who were all very tightly interwoven. They used to refer to it as the Cardiacs family. So you had a lot of bands like Cardiacs and Levitation and Sidi Boo Side and the Monsoon Bassoon, and this huge cloud or constellation of bands, each doing exciting and wonderful things that were all spending time together and collaborating and hitting the path together. And that was much of the 90s for me, going to these gigs and enjoying these things.
That's like a trip down memory lane, and it definitely evoked a lot of emotional feelings as well. Hearing you mention about all these bands from another time, right? So maybe we want to ask you for some recommendations because I've got to admit that I'm a new Cardiacs convert. I haven't followed the band before, and it took me a long time. I'm in my 40s, right? And it took me really a long time to really discover his music. And it was when I chanced upon a post by J.C. Thirlwell from Feeders, a band that I think we share something in common as well. He posted about his passing, of course. He shared some of the Cardiacs music on his playlist. That's when I discovered, wow, the Cardiacs basically connected all the dots for different genres. There's so many things that are going on in one song, right? And really epitomized everything about the prog, the classic prog rock, as well as the uniquely, crazy world of Tim Smith as well. I think it's a really incredible catalog of music that I have created. What would be your choices from the Cardiacs' awesome catalog of musical magic that you would recommend to maybe a new Cardiacs convert? I think your picture has
a lot.
Yeah, sorry to stop you. Are you able to maybe leave the chat room and come back again using the same links? Let's see whether you improve the picture quality on your end.
Okay.
Yeah, I think your picture's still frozen. So in the meantime, I'll just keep on talking to our listeners and those who are tuning in from LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitch Live, right? So this is Bucket List Band Podcast. It's another podcast that's produced by the CMO Asia Podcast. So we're here to pay tribute today to Tim Smith, who passed away recently. And I think we have Joanna, you're back. So I think I'm going to just refresh your memory. This is my question. What are your choices from Cardiac's awesome catalog of musical magic that you would recommend to Cardiac's new convert?
If you want to be eased into it, Then Is This the Life was the nearest they had to a hit single, and that's a fairly straightforward pop song. Doesn't have any weird time signature changes. It's just a straightforward dance floor filler. You've probably heard it 1,000 times without knowing what it is. Day Is Gone, wonderful song, kind of reminds me of the Stranglers a little bit. If you want to dive straight in and enjoy the pure sound and glory of Cardiacs, then there's a live DVD called All That Glitters Is a Mare's Nest, and that is peak Cardiacs. And it's a live concert, and it's so vibrant and full of joy and life. Definitely Glitters Is a Mare's Nest.
I'm sorry, I think the signal is dropping off again, so sorry to cut you off. Could you do the same thing again, Joanna? Maybe leave the chat room and re-enter the broadcast studio. Let's see whether you improve
Okay.
the signal again. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is a great podcast where we have Joanna Weber coming on to recommend us some music to check out, especially if like me, you're a Cardiacs convert, right? There's so many back catalog and so much music to dive into. I think the music that or the song that really caught my attention was I think one of the earlier tracks from I think the Guns album. I think if I'm not wrong, it's probably two white lilies or another track that I suddenly can't remember. But maybe Joanna can help me with that. And maybe recommend some songs from the Guns album, right? Or what are some of your favorites as well? What are the key albums that you think that we should check out?
So my favorite album is probably A Little Man in a House and the Whole World Window, or Sing to God. It really depends on my mood. Sing to God is considered the masterpiece. It's the pinnacle of everything that they had to offer. So that's when they had the pared down lineup of the later years. So the earlier stuff, like All That Glitters Is a Mare's Nest, they had saxophone and quite a large stage presence and a lot of elaborate theatricality. Whereas Sing to God, it was a 4-piece rock band, and the sound was probably more recognizable in terms of having that kind of blur guitar sound, and it was a lot more, but a lot simpler, but still just as powerful. But it's got the song that everybody points to, which is Dirty Boy, which actually took me a while to really appreciate. The first time I heard it, I was a little bit underwhelmed. But then when I heard it a couple of times, it was like, you know what, this really is as good as everybody says it is. And then when it was performed on the 21st of December, a couple of years ago, with Mike Venart in the vocals, it was, just a magical song. Although people usually say the London concerts of around sort of 2003-ish, because they did a few of them. That's when it really, really peaked for them. So you're kind of either going late 80s, Baby Heart Dirt, that, or you can go Dirty Boy and just have this full anthemic stadium rock kind of. If I say Cathedrals of Sound, you will probably murder me, but it's the only way to sum it up.
I think you nailed it on the head, especially Dirty Boy is the track that many people are introduced to the band. And the live shows, especially, we all, heard that the adjectives used to describe their live shows are either bonkers or magical at the same time, right? So, like for me personally, in fact, the track that caught my attention was Two Bites of Cherry, I think from the album On Land and In the Sea. So it wasn't Two Lily Whites, which I mentioned earlier, Two Bites of Cherry, because there was an interesting story behind that song as well, right? I remember on a podcast or a tribute show that I tuned into recently, it was mentioned that, an 18-year-old, right, he basically attended one of the live shows, and he had to actually bask on the streets of London, I think, and in order to afford a train ticket to actually go and probably hang out, with Tim Smith and the band at the studio. I think the Slaughterhouse studio where they were recording the album on Land and in the Sea. And what happened is that when he told Tim that he had to busk and using an acoustic guitar, right, in order to pay and afford a train ticket, Tim immediately asked him to borrow the guitar. I think it was an Ovation a guitar, acoustic guitar, and he used that on the track Two Bites of Cherry, which I think is a phenomenal track. So what are some of the memories of you attending shows by the Cardiacs? Have you seen the band before the accident where Tim Smith got a heart attack, right, and a stroke, and and actually suffer from dystonia for the rest of his life? Or do you manage to catch some of the other shows where the rest of the band were basically raising funds for him for his treatment?
Yeah, so I think I caught every London performance between 1994 and 2000, and so that was a fair number of gigs during that period. After that, I moved away from London, and unfortunately, I missed them when they came to Cambridge a few years later. So that's a bit of a regret for me. But I did manage to see them many times, and they were always extraordinary. I think the first time I saw them playing was in Islington, and I think there's a very grainy clip of that on YouTube somewhere of them performing Ideal, which is an amazing track. And you just see this kind of frenetic flurry of hair and energy, just, whirligig around the stage. And then there was a show in Camden, I remember, where they had just this amazing kind of these big drums, and they're just kind of pounding them out. When they did the opening, they did Home of Fadeless Splendor, which was the big anthem that they opened shows with. I just remember being absolutely bowled away by that. Through to the later shows at ULU, and in London, and just the energy, and seeing people like Ginger Wildheart kind of milling around in the audience. There was, you've already mentioned J.G. Thirlwell. I didn't go to the gig where he saw them, but they were huge fans of each other, and getting a great amount of enjoyment from each other's music. The most recent one was December 2018, and that was a tribute show. So the members of Cardiacs who were now performing in other bands, like Carvus with his band Knife World, they were, and Spratley Japs, that's Joe Spratley's band. They were performing at this concert, and at the end of it, they all got up together and performed Cardiac songs together, and Tim was in the audience, and it was just a really beautiful, again, magical evening.
Did you manage to meet Tim Smith, and did you say anything to him when you met him?
I went over and I just sort of said, thank you for all of these wonderful memories I have of you and your music. And he kissed the back of my hand, which I think probably took him quite a lot of effort. So I was very touched by that.
That's amazing. So it's like, for me, I've discovered the band late, so I never got a chance to meet the band. To see the band play live, but from so many links been shared, right, on Facebook, on YouTube, and we get to rediscover some of the classic performances. So you mentioned about so many great shows that you attended. I think at least half a dozen, including those by the tribute bands, right? And you also mentioned about a show that the Feeders frontman J.G. Thirlwell attended. I think your story, if I'm not wrong, in the year 2000. So those were all great shows, and there have been some really scintillating performances as well. So what was the highlight for you in terms of so many shows you've attended, and what's the tightest or the most amazing over-the-top performance that still live long in your memory?
Oh, wow.
I like to put my guests, in a corner all the time with questions like this. So
it's like saying, I don't know. It's like pick your favorite anything, and your favorite ice cream flavor, and they say, what's the most magical time you've ever had your Ben and Jerry's chocolate ice cream? It's like, well, it's always amazing. It's always incredible. There's never been a bad show. You know, it has always been absolutely astonishing. I think possibly just because they were newer to me, I might go with that Camden one with all the drums, which was, yeah, I think William D. Drake was supporting at that one. My memory's a little bit fuzzy because this was the 90s, but that might be slightly out in front.
Okay. My next question for you, what are the hidden gems from the Cardiacs, from the more well-known works, right? What would you recommend to these Cardiacs convert, especially when you want to tell them about the hidden gems that require, more, longer listening and really deep diving into the catalog?
Oh, I think I really love Nurse's Whispering Verses. That is quite a departure of a sound for them. It sounds like something else, and I'm trying to think what it sounds like. It sounds like another band, Wire perhaps, but it's a really, really unusual track for them, and it's one of those tracks that's quite unassuming at first, but the more you listen to it, the more compelling it becomes. No, that's not Nurse's Whispering Verses, it's Wireless. Wireless is the other one. But no, yeah, Nurse's Whispering Verses is an incredible track as well. They're both on Sing to God, and they're the ones that don't get spoken about quite as much as Dirty Boy or Man Who, which are the single type tracks, the ones that people flock to first. And then there's another song which people don't tend to mention quite so much, but I've always really loved it, and Bick Hayes does the vocals on it, and that's Goodbye Grace. And it's just a straight out punk song, and it's just amazing.
These are very fantastic recommendation. I would say, some of the tracks by the Sea Nymphs are also fantastic. I think the one that I really love is on Lily White, I think, or No Bright Side from the Day Is Gone EP is also pretty stellar. So there's so many great songs, right? It's impossible to basically share all of them on this podcast as well. So maybe in terms of on never getting to see the Cardiacs live, people like me, I have to say that Tim Smith is still someone who is really inspirational. Before I maybe share my story of why Tim Smith is inspirational to me, perhaps you can tell our audience why is he, a great a person that inspire you in the things that you do, like for example, music journalism, reviewing people's music, especially.
I think with Tim, it is that openness and I think intellectual humility that he had, and it's a trait that I know with other acts that we both like, who all seem to have been cut from the same cloth. They're not necessarily similar, but they're cut from the same cloth. So you've got Tim Smith, you've got J.G. Thirlwall, you've got Devin Townsend, and there's a kind of a certain kindred spiritness to them, and it's their openness to life, whereas other people can be quite close-minded and wall themselves off and think, oh, that's not for me, oh, it's pop music, so I'll dismiss it. Oh, it's classical music, so I'll dismiss it. Oh, it's rap, I'm not going to listen to that. And if you just open yourself up and embrace the possibility of enjoying the different things that you might come into contact with, whether it's, polka or neo-folk or whatever, and then that gives you a gift. It broadens the vocabulary with which you can express yourself in a multitude of different ways, and that could be through music, that could be through writing, it could be through podcasting or whatever, but it is that sense of being open.
Exactly. I think I 100% agree with you on how he has touched many people's hearts, not just being a really sweet soul, right? It's remembered by so many who have met him, personally, that he's a really kind and incredible person. And of course, he inspires in so many ways. I think personally, he inspired me to keep creating by doing podcasting. So in your case, right, you continue to create because it inspires you. And, especially with the health issues that I've been facing, recently with the lockdown as well, there hasn't been a day in the past, couple of weeks where I haven't really, or haven't not think about Tim Smith because, he has actually went through so many health issues, right? dystonia is something that is so rare and affected him after he had got that stroke. And I couldn't imagine someone who loves music so much, who loves people in general, and who keeps on creating, right, having all this capacity to create suddenly disappear, and he has to continue to live and to push on, right? And he managed to do so for so many years when the detractors probably say that this is a disease or an illness that will probably shorten his lifespan, but he managed to live on and keep on inspiring people around him. So I think we have many stories of how having health issues or facing difficulties and challenges will affect not just physically, but also mentally as well. There's a lot of mental struggles that go along with having health issues. So maybe perhaps you might want to tell or share with us how the lockdown has also affected you, I believe, like how it has affected me, right, health-wise. Has it had an impact on your work, or had an impact on how you deal with different issues as well? Could be physical or mentally.
I likened it at first, the beginning of lockdown, to suddenly slamming the brakes onto a bicycle or a motorbike and then falling straight over the handlebars and skidding across the road and then coming to a dead stop. It was just so abrupt of a change of lifestyle. And then I think there were people who responded to it in one of two ways. You either thought, oh, well, it's only going to be for a few weeks. And I think those people, for the most part, are struggling more now. Or there are people, I think like me, who'd looked at previous pandemics and thought this is a 1 to 2 year thing, and had to process that grief within the first 12 weeks. And of course, there were the people who were directly affected by the disease itself, and for many of the people that I know who have had it, that's been the beginning of a very, very long journey of recovery. This is not something you get over in 5 days for many people. This is something that will affect you for months and months and months. But for me, it was that immediate transition, and then right up until I had about Tim, I was, really starting to get into a groove and really starting to enjoy life again, and, thinking about the next, what am I going to do next in terms of new hobbies and interests and ways of being. And, this has all been sort of a new shock for me, but people tell me I'm very resilient, so I get through it. And the way I get to be resilient is that you feel the pain. It's again that Devin Townsend lyric, you receive the pain, but this is not who we are. It's you feel it, you accept it, and then you move on. And so that's as each wave of murder hornets or whatever hits, then that's what you do. You feel it, you allow yourself to process it, and then you move on, because this is not how it ends. You just keep going on and going on and going on. So on the one hand, maybe not quite as productive in a lot of ways as I was before, and there's certain things that have slipped in terms of my my well-being. I'm not getting as much exercise as I got before, but I have bought a stepper machine, so I will be having a little go on that. The ones with the I got one of those in the living room, because with each one you think you've got to think, what am I missing? What is it that I am missing from my life, and what can I do right now to ameliorate that? So I am missing having this 20-minute walk per day from work, and so that was taking a toll on me. And I worked in a very, very large open plan office, so I would easily get through 10,000-15,000 steps just walking around the office. And so with my little stepper, that's that one problem solved. And then you just do that another 100,000 times, and you kind of got your problems solved.
That's fantastic. Lots of great tips as well, on how to keep on exercising, right? I think when you were close, that's where my health problems started as well. And I think it's important not to also judge yourself when it's impossible to either get out of bed, like in the case of Tim Smith, right? It's impossible for him to get out of the wheelchair. And I think there's also a lot of reminders, from his own experiences and his own journey, right? To always keep a positive outlook, right? I think that's the thing that kept him going. And of course, there has been a lot of support as well from people who love him, who love his music. So I think this is probably a good time for us to segue into maybe some music. Maybe we can watch some performance clips or listen into some covers by the likes of Napalm Death, because they have all paid tribute in their own way. And hopefully Alphabet, the business concern, will give me permission to play this track, which is recommended by J.G. Thirlwell from Fetus. I think this is the video that basically made me discover the band in the first place. This is, I think, from one of their live DVDs. I think it's As Cold as Can Be in an English C from the DVD Fairy Tales from the Shed, I think. So let's maybe listen in and get your reaction after this, right? Because this is probably one of the most classic performance by the Cardiacs. Let's check it out.
Fuck it. That was good. I thought you sounded like it was on. He always did it like that. Can we do that again?
Why?
Why? Why?
What you think you're going to get it better? I don't think.
Coming up to me, and I hear them say, but what they say don't matter any good. Easy come, easy go, I know it well that it's so precious, built and bound to fit. Oh, I might be wrong. Today I'm here in the rain, back again for a while. It's my happy, I'm untitled state. What is seeing, feeling, know what I'm seeing, I don't believe. But you know I might be wrong. When I was inside on the train again. Let's go.
So we gotta stop there because I think because we have a time limit to this program. What is your reaction when you hear or you watch something like that? What kind of feelings or emotional feelings invoke inside you immediately when you see that? Because for me, right, it was actually the first time I actually hear a Cardiacs track and actually watch the band in a video. Immediately it comes to mind is that it seems like it's Johnny Rotten singing, in a band, for example, like Mr. Bungle or Faith No More. And the twists and turns are really incredible. For me, it's like connecting the dots to all the different genres, and it's like a mix of everything in one song. What is your take on this video?
Well, that was probably my least favorite Cardiacs output. I was never a particular fan of that particular recording, and it just shows that his worst is better than almost everybody else's best.
It shows his genius, right?
Yeah.
His obviously his sense of humor as well. The way he interacts with his bandmates are just out of this world, bonkers.
Yeah, I think if you didn't no, you might be quite horrified by it because it seems like he and Jim are at loggerheads, but there was this, deep love between them.
Yeah, and of course, Jim is a really interesting member of the band that I read that many in the audience are rooting for him, especially when it appears like he's getting bullied, right? So, that's another element of the band that I'm just slowly rediscovering right now, when I'm in my 40s. It's been an incredible journey so far. So if I'm going to ask you for some recommendation, what are the clips that, we should check out, and especially when it comes to not the worst side, but the best side of the band that I haven't discovered yet?
So I've already said about All That Glitters Is a Mare's Nest, the live DVD. On YouTube, there's a recording of Dirty Boy, a live one from about 2003. That is a pinnacle performance of there. It's just the sheer magnitude, the energy of that is incredible. One of my favorite recordings is actually a cover. Tim has a solo album, and it was
is it called Ocean World, the solo album?
Ocean Worldland, yeah, and it's absolutely beautiful. There is a cover by Bick and Joe of sorry, my mind's gone blank. It's not Ocean Heaven. It's the or is it Ocean Heaven? It's a track on there, and yeah, that's amazing. That was from one of the gatherings, the Alphabet Business Conventions that used to take place all the time. Oh, I see. You got the To Go Off and Things cover. That's a really, really good one. That I enjoy. Yeah, Napalm Death. That's a good one. The early stuff, there's a number of official videos from their early days, like RES, and that's really good. When they used to wear all the face makeup and everything, almost like clown paint on there. I think they were very influenced by the Residents and that kind of aesthetic in their early days. So, I mean, there's just so much. It's like, how do you even begin to how do you even begin to narrow it down?
That's why I have you come on to my podcast, so I can, take the shortcut and just into the best, of what the best to offer for us, right?
I mean, it is. It's like trying to. It's like trying to pick your favorite sentence out of a library. Yeah, there is just so much to get through. This first compilation tape that got me into the band, tracks on there that I absolutely loved. 2 Bites of Cherry, you've mentioned. Baby Heart Dirt. March is another really good one. It's got this real kind of medieval sound to it. It's really, really beautiful. The Breakfast Line, which is quite an old track by them. I mean, there's just so. Oh, Everything Is Easy is another really, really, really fantastic track.
Fantastic. Immediately after this episode, I'm going to create a playlist. So it will be titled Tracks Recommended by Joanna Weber. So if you to find out and to listen to all these great songs, right? I'm going to maybe segue quickly into, your other music exploits interests, especially we share a lot of favorite bands. The ones in common, obviously, Mr. Bungle. We love Napalm Death. We love J.G. Thirlwell, Feeders. You're the one who actually, made me appreciate Feeders' music more. And of course, your writings as well are incredible. And maybe for a start, just tell us what upcoming album you are looking forward to that is not the Cardiacs.
Oh.
I think some bands are like plotting or planning or recording albums during the lockdown, right? So there's like news of so many new releases in the future, some that are already being announced, some that are still kept secretive. But in your personal opinion, what upcoming album are you looking forward to?
I would say I always look forward to new music by Billie Eilish at the moment. So that's probably not the answer you were expecting, but that's the person I've been listening to most lately. I just find it...
Spectrum, Billie Eilish on the Bucket List Band podcast. Tell us more about your love for Billie Eilish, because I respect her a lot, in fact.
Yeah, she is extraordinarily articulate. She has a really good way of condensing and distilling emotions into lyrics and songs, and I really like the music that her brother Phineas puts together for those songs. So the one I've really enjoyed lately, is, Everything I Wanted. I think it's just beautiful song, and she's got the new one with the animated video that came out yesterday, I think. So she's just had a new song out. I'm always looking forward to more Devin Townsend all the time. Absolutely loved his last album. That was just amazing. So I've just reviewed this weirdly on point lockdown song for I'm writing for a website called Screen Blast Repeat. I've just done a review of some 60s garage rock for them, so that will be uploaded in a few days. So this website's very, very interesting. It's put together by one of my former colleagues who we used to have like a metal club at work where we'd all meet and talk about music. And he has assembled writers, and there are some really, really incredible writers from there, people who are writing for publications like The Guardian who are contributing to this. So I feel like I'm in really, really good company.
This is a fantastic website. I think I came across it when I was hunting for a review of the new album by Hum. So they haven't recorded the new album for 22 years. So I was like scouring the web for reviews, and most of the reviews are pretty badly written because they're like giving it miserable, like 6 stars or 5, or even Pitchfork gave it 7 stars for the latest album called Inlet, right? But this website caught my attention because it gave it a very generous 7.8. So that's like the highest score I've ever seen for an album that I absolutely love. I think it's my album of the year so far in 2020. So I think we should drive more people to come to go check out the Screen Blast Repeat, and especially if you're interested to read your reviews, right? What are the albums that you'll be reviewing next that you can review on this show?
So I haven't been given an assignment after the last one, but the one that will be updated in a few days is called Brown Acid, The 10th Trip. And that's a compilation of rare tracks from bands from the 60s and 70s. So if you like the MC5s and the Stooges and sort of proto-rock sound of 1969, then there's a lot there to enjoy.
Before we let you go, right, I definitely have to ask you more questions about Fetus, because it's probably the artist that is singularly, brought us together. That's how I got to know you. Why is Nail, so important in terms of, if Nail Never Exists, right, which is an album by Fetus, 9 Inch Nails would have never happened. Why is that so? Can you maybe tell us more about that, the reason behind the importance of Nail by Fetus?
Well, I mean, Nail was the one that reeled me in. I gave my colleague a tape of Killing Joke and said, hear this and weep. And in return, he gave me a tape of Nail and said, hear this and weep. And I heard it and I wept. It was that kind of incredible impact, suddenly instant fan moment. And it was, again, this kind of assembly of disparate influences in a single context. So it sounds very cohesive, this album. It's a proper album, but it's mixing together jazz and industrial and classical and rock, and it's just putting it all together into this big pot. It was Fetus's 4th album, so you had 2 in the early 80s, Death and Ache, and then you had Hole, which was the first one that kind of sounded a little bit poppy, and it had this kind of no wave industrial kind of sound to it. There's one that sounds it's a pastiche of Nick Cave. And so Hole is an absolutely fantastic record, but then you've got Nail, and it's just on a level of its own. It is completely, it's like comparing Pulp Fiction to Tarantino's other movies. It is the pinnacle up to that point. And he did it all himself on a brand new synthesizer that, it wasn't possible to do music like that before. In the early 80s, he would, in the late 70s, he would cut up bits of tape and stick them together with sellotape to make these kind of samples. And so now he finally had a sampler, and in his head he had this idea of this chamber orchestra performing this music, but he could do it with the synthesizer. So that's what it sounds like. And Trent Reznor, obviously hearing this, is like, A, I can do this myself, and B, I can have all these really huge sounds in there and do that myself. So that's what enabled Reznor. And Thirlwall did take Reznor under his wing to a certain extent. There are photographs of them together, and obviously he did the legendary remix on the Broken EP.
This is fantastic, and it's wonderful how our favorite bands are all linked together, and they all influence one another, right? So for those who haven't discovered Fetus's music, they should go check out Nail, because without that album, right, probably 9 Inch Nails probably wouldn't happen. And of course, we all know that Tim Smith is a big fan of Fetus as well. And I read from, I think, a Facebook page of J.G. Thirlwell, where he paid tribute to Tim Smith, right? He said that he was deeply saddened to hear of the death of Tim Smith cardiacs, and he was also inspired and very much, a musician and a songwriter who are creating epic, euphoric, intricate music. And J.G. Thirlwell was also very lucky enough to see them live in London, right, in the 2000s, and it was stunning. So there is probably a nugget here, an Easter egg information. I saw from that page as well that Tim Smith, being a big fan of Fetus, right, he actually sampled ! From Nails on a Little Man LP. So I'm not sure whether you caught that as well, because for me as a newbie, a new cardiac convert, I didn't realize that. So do you think there's true behind that?
That's probably true. I'm going to have to go back and listen to that and try and, exclamation mark is like, it's seconds long. So you really would be blink and you miss it. But it wouldn't surprise me because, I did notice that when Fetus played, then Tim and Jim from Cardiacs were in the crowd and bopping along with the rest of us, and then when Cardiacs played, then JG was in the crowd. So that they did enjoy it. I mean, I don't think influence is the right word. I don't think it certainly wouldn't be accurate to say that that Fetus were influenced by Cardiacs, but I think certainly having that kinship and affinity and brilliant minds think alike was definitely going on there, along with a very, very strong appreciation of each other's music. Carver's put together an album called the Exquisite Corpse Game a couple of years ago, and like the old paper folding trick, each act was only allowed to hear a few seconds of the previous track and then had to write a new track based on those few seconds. It's a really interesting compilation, and J.G. Thirlwell appears on that compilation.
This is fantastic. I absolutely love that. And I think this is a great way to sign off from this podcast episode. It's so great to have you here, and getting this opportunity to riff with you about the Cardiacs, Tim Smith, Fetus, 9 Inch Nails, Killing Joke, Napalm Death. The list goes on, right? We have so many favorite bands that we share in common. So I'm really looking forward to have you come on to the show again in the future. Maybe tell us any last message for our listeners or viewers who are watching this live on Twitch or YouTube or LinkedIn.
I guess that that people are never gone while there are people who still love them. And when, according to messages that have been put out there by Tim's loved ones, he knew that he was loved, and it made a world of difference to him. So I think just keep sharing that love, with each other, generally telling the people in your life how important they are to them, and just share the love.
This is fantastic. And I think the Cardiacs family, the Tim Smith family, they're all really fantastic people. So I think by chatting with you finally, for the first time virtually, I also find you a really incredible person, and we look forward to do this all over again for episode 2 in the future. So in the meantime, continue to stay safe, and I really hope one day I will be able to maybe attend a feeder show together, right, in person. So that'll be an awesome day. I'm really looking forward to something like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on your show. It's been a real honor.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joanna Weber. So signing off. I'll see you again really soon. Goodbye.
Bye.